You aren't failing because you lack discipline. You're failing because you're loyal to a version of yourself that no longer exists. Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. How many times have you set a goal, started strong for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, and then just stopped? And the worst part, you knew exactly what to do. You had the plan, you had the motivation, you even had the time. But something invisible kept pulling you back, like gravity, to your old patterns. Here's what nobody tells you about change. The real battle isn't about willpower. It's not about discipline. It's not even about motivation. The real battle is happening at a much deeper level. In the story you tell yourself about who you are. See, every single one of us walks around with an invisible identity, a mental image of ourselves that operates like an operating system running in the background of our minds. And here's the thing, this identity, it's incredibly protective. It doesn't want to change. It doesn't care about your goals. It just wants to keep you consistent with who it thinks you are. Think about it this way. If you've spent years telling yourself, "I'm not a morning person," your identity has locked that in as fact. So when you try to wake up at 5 a.m., it's not just your body resisting. It's your entire sense of self fighting against this foreign behavior. Your brain literally says, "This isn't who we are. We don't do this. Go back to sleep." Or maybe you've always said, "I'm just not good with money." That becomes part of your identity DNA. So when you try to budget or save or invest, it feels fake. It feels like you're pretending to be someone else. And your identity, like a loyal guard dog, pulls you back to spending, back to the familiar financial chaos, because that's who it thinks you are. This is what psychologists call identity-based inertia, and it's one of the most powerful invisible forces keeping you stuck. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. He says the most effective way to change your behavior is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. Because here's the brutal truth. You will never rise above your identity. You will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. Let me give you an example. Two people are offered a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." Notice the difference. The first person still identifies as a smoker who is resisting. The second has changed their identity. And that shift, that subtle reframe, is everything. The person trying to quit still sees themselves as a smoker fighting temptation. Every refusal is a battle. Every craving is a test of willpower. But the person who says, "I'm not a smoker," they've already won. There's no internal conflict because the behavior doesn't match who they are anymore. This is the identity trap. You're trying to install new behaviors on top of an old identity, and it doesn't work. It's like trying to run the latest software on a computer from 2005. The system can't handle it. It crashes, it freezes, it goes back to what it knows. So if you want real change, lasting change, you can't just change what you do. You have to change who you are, or more accurately, who you believe you are. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Your identity isn't fixed. It's not set in stone. It's actually incredibly flexible, but it updates slowly and only through evidence. Your brain needs proof before it rewrites the story. So how do you actually change your identity? You start small. You collect votes for the new identity, one small action at a time. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Miss a workout. That's a vote for being out of shape. Show up anyway. That's a vote for being an athlete. Skip the morning routine. Vote for chaos. Do it even when you don't feel like it. Vote for discipline. Your identity is just the sum of your votes. And the beautiful thing, you don't need a majority to start seeing yourself differently. You just need enough evidence to shift the balance. Let's say you want to become a writer. You don't need to write a best-selling book. You just need to write. Today. even if it's one paragraph. Because when you write, you're collecting evidence, you're casting a vote, and your brain starts to update the file. Oh, maybe we are someone who writes. But here's the mistake most people make. They set this massive identity shift goal, like, I'm going to become a millionaire entrepreneur, when their current identity is, I'm terrible with money and I hate sales. That's too big a gap. Your brain rejects it. It's not believable yet. So instead, you shrink the identity shift. You start with, I'm someone who learns about money. Then, I'm someone who saves $50 a week. Then, I'm someone who invests. You're not lying to yourself. You're just building the bridge, one small identity shift at a time. And here's what's wild. Once your identity starts shifting, the behaviors become automatic. You stop needing discipline. Because you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're just being who you are. A person who identifies as healthy doesn't need to force themselves to eat well. It's just what they do. A person who identifies as a learner doesn't need to motivate themselves to read. It's part of who they are. The behavior flows naturally from the identity. But there's a dark side to this too. If you're stuck in a negative identity, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you're lazy, you'll find evidence everywhere. You'll remember every time you procrastinated and ignore every time you pushed through. Your brain is a confirmation machine. It finds what you tell it to look for. So the question you need to ask yourself is this: what identity am I defending right now? What story about myself am I protecting, even though it's holding me back? Maybe it's, I'm not disciplined. Maybe it's, I'm not creative. Maybe it's, I'm not the type of person who succeeds. Whatever it is, that's your prison. And the bars are invisible, but they're incredibly strong. The good news, you have the key. You just need to start voting differently. Here's a framework you can use starting today. First, decide who you want to become. Not what you want to achieve, but who. Do you want to be a healthy person, a disciplined person, a creative person, a financially free person? Get specific about the identity. Second, ask yourself, what would that person do in this situation? When you're deciding whether to hit snooze, ask, what would a disciplined person do? When you're deciding whether to order takeout or cook, ask, what would a healthy person do? You're not pretending. You're trying on the identity, testing it out. Third, take the smallest possible action that aligns with that identity. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Just one small vote, one rep, one decision. That's it. And fourth, celebrate the evidence. Every time you act in alignment with your new identity, acknowledge it. Tell yourself, that's what a disciplined person does. That's who I am now. You're training your brain to update the story. Over time, those small votes add up, the evidence builds. And one day, you'll realize you're not trying to be that person anymore. You just are. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what if I fail? What if I vote for the new identity and then mess up? Here's the truth. You will mess up. You'll miss workouts. You'll skip the routine. You'll fall back into old patterns. That's not failure. That's just being human. The key is this: one vote doesn't determine the election. If you miss one workout, that doesn't mean you're not an athlete. It just means you missed one vote. The question is, what do you do next? Do you spiral and collect evidence for the old identity? Or do you cast another vote for the new one? Your identity isn't fragile. It doesn't shatter with one mistake. It shifts with patterns. So focus on the trend, not the individual data points. And here's something else that's powerful. You can borrow identities before you've fully earned them. You can ask yourself, how would someone I admire handle this? How would the version of me I'm becoming respond? You're using their identity as a template, a North Star, until your own identity catches up. Let me tell you about a guy I know, spent his whole life believing he wasn't athletic, never played sports, hated the gym, always said, "I'm just not that type of person." Then one day, he decided to try something different. He didn't set a goal to run a marathon. He just asked himself, what would an athlete do today? And the answer was simple. An athlete would move their body, so he walked. Just 10 minutes. That's it. And then he did it again the next day, and the next. He wasn't trying to become an athlete. He was just collecting votes. 6 months later, he ran his first 5K. A year later, he was training for a half marathon. And when people asked him how he did it, he didn't talk about discipline or motivation. He said, "I just started acting like the person I wanted to become until I became that person." That's the power of identity-based change. You're not fighting yourself, you're becoming yourself, the version you're meant to be. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one identity shift, just one. Maybe it's, I'm someone who takes care of their body. Maybe it's, I'm someone who shows up for themselves. Maybe it's, I'm someone who finishes what they start. And then, start voting. One small action today. That's it. You're not overhauling your life. You're just casting one vote for the person you're becoming. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. You don't find yourself. You build yourself. One decision at a time. One vote at a time. One small piece of evidence at a time. And the person you're becoming. They're already inside you, waiting for you to believe in them, waiting for you to collect enough evidence to rewrite the story. So stop trying to force behaviors onto an outdated identity. Start building the identity and watch the behaviors follow. You aren't failing because you lack discipline. You're failing because you're still operating from an old version of yourself. But that version, it's not permanent. It's just a story, and you can rewrite it, starting right now.